Would you study in the US if OPT was taken away? Right now, optional practical training or OPT is under more scrutiny than ever. And this is a big question for international students. Is studying abroad worth it if there's no work study after your graduation? Quick note, this is more about education and not legal advice. If you've got specific questions about your OPT, talk to your DSO. So what is OPT? OPT is work authorization tied to the F1 student visa that lets international students get practical work experience in their field of study. Most students get up to 12 months, but certain STEM degrees can get an extension of 24 months, giving them a total of 36 months. Here's the key detail. OPT is not a work visa like H-1B. It's considered a training benefit connected to your student status. And that framing matters because it's right at the center of the policy and legal arguments around OPT. Where did OPT come from? A lot of people assume OPT is some sort of modern loophole. It's not. Versions of practical training for international students go back decades, as far as the 1940s. A major milestone was 1992 when the government formalized optional practical training through regulation. And that's important. OPT wasn't created by Congress in a neat little law with a bow on top of it. It was created and shaped mainly through executive branch regulation, which means it can also be changed through regulation. That's why OPT can feel stable for years and then suddenly feel very not stable. OPT expanded in the late 2000s because the US wanted to keep highly trained graduates in the country, especially in STEM. In 2008, they created the STEM extension. In 2016, DHS replaced the older structure with the current system, including the longer STEM extensions, but with stricter rules like employer e-verify participation and a formal training plan. OPT has also been challenged in court. It survived. But the big takeaway is this. The foundation is regulatory. That keeps it alive and also makes it vulnerable. Why does OPT matter so much? For a lot of international students, studying abroad is a huge investment. So the opportunity to apply what they've learned in a practical setting, get some experiences, potentially use that to either go for a graduate degree or look for jobs back home is a critical part of their educational experience during study abroad. And the numbers show how central it has become. Participation in the OPT has grown records in the most recent years. So what's happening right now? When people say OPT is on the chopping block, sometimes they mean it emotionally, like the vibes are bad. But right now, there's a real reason this is a live conversation. DHS has signaled that it's reevaluating OPT and STEM OPT. Reevaluating doesn't automatically mean ending. More often, policy changes show up as tightening, more compliance steps, more oversight, narrower definitions of what counts as qualifying work, shorter durations, or more restriction around employers. And even if nothing changes tomorrow, the fact that OPT is being reviewed tells you the risk level has changed. It's not panic-worthy, it's plan-worthy. Let's answer the big question. Would you study in the US if OPT was no longer available on the table? If OPT disappeared tomorrow, the US would still be a top academic destination. The education quality, research access, and brand value are real. But for a huge percentage of students, the ROI would break. Not feel worse, break. Here's a simple framework. If your plan depends on earning US income after graduation to justify the cost, whether it's 1 year or 3 years, then OPT is not optional. It's structural. Without it, the US becomes a luxury purchase, not an investment. If your plan is to return home immediately and you're using the US degree mainly for credibility, skills, and network, then OPT matters less. Still useful, but not make or break. And if you're choosing destinations partly because of post-study work, you should treat OPT uncertainty as a risk factor, the same way you treat currency swings or cost of living spikes. You don't panic, you plan. So what should students do now? 3 things. 1. Stop treating OPT like a guaranteed entitlement. Treat it like a policy benefit that can change at any time. 2. Choose programs and schools where job outcomes are strong, even if the timeline tightens. Outcomes beat optimism all the time. 3. Have a backup plan. Home country ROI, multiple destination options, or a pathway that doesn't rely on a single US policy staying generous forever. For more detailed information like this, make sure you subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Would you study in the US if OPT was taken away?